Hi, welcome back to the Hatening. It's Hoop still. Today I wanted to talk about like missing people, and just like dealing with that and kind of what that feels like. And I think that it's pretty safe to say that we all miss people. We all miss at least one person, right? And maybe it's because they moved away, or because your relationship changed, or because they passed away, you know what I mean? But I think that everyone has, places in their heart or in their, life or whatever, that ended up being a void just because someone isn't there to fill that space anymore, like a specific person. You know what I'm talking about? And it's tough. Like it's definitely something that it's hard to deal with, and it's hard to help people when they miss someone, because it's all very, very subjective. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, social relationships are subjective. Every single one is different, even though there are like some common tropes or like common themes, and we do have like some understanding when it comes to like what it's like to have a best friend, but then like every best friend relationship is different. You know what I mean? And so let's say your best friend moves across the country or across town or across the planet or whatever, like that's tough. Or let's say you and your best friend have a falling out and you're no longer on good terms. That's tough. Or if your best friend dies, that's also tough. And so there's different coping mechanisms for all that, right? And there's different things that you can do, both healthy and unhealthy, to sort of deal with that. And, I've been thinking about that, there's no like real specific, like one person that I necessarily miss over anyone else, right? There are a lot of people that I do miss, different context and different reasons and stuff like that. But I've been thinking about that because people that I'm close to now, I'm starting to notice, like with the pandemic going into year 2 and the sophomore year of the pandemic, like a lot of people are lonely, but not just like loneliness, but feel lonely because there are specific individuals whose presence is noticeably absent from their life, and it's a fucking thing, right? And it's tough and it's hard to console people, but it just kind of like is part of the human condition, right? We all find ourselves in situations where people go away, whatever that means. Temporarily, permanently, physically, emotionally, socially, romantically, right? So like maybe you miss one of your former partners, or especially juicy one night stand. Maybe you miss a family member who passed or who moved away, right? Like everyone misses someone, and it sucks, and sometimes there's not much you can do because you can't contact them, right? Like there is a myriad of situations that come to mind that would make it so that you can't contact someone anymore. And maybe there's an end date on the contact blackout, whatever you want to call it. And then sometimes it's just how it is from now on, right? If someone goes to jail, or if someone, finds themselves like in the military or doing something where they can't contact the outside world for a while, it sucks. But at least at some point you might be able to talk to them again. But if someone dies, or if someone cuts all communication, then it's like, well, I guess we're never going to talk. And it sucks. Like, it does suck. But then on the other hand, like sometimes there are people who you miss who you can still talk to, right? But then you have to decide like what you're going to do to sort of not make things normal, but have them still be in your life and have it be so like they're still kind of around, even if they're not actually around, right? So you find yourself texting and and calling each other, maybe you try and do like online activities, whether it's like video games or other shit like that. I have a lot of friends who do a lot of like long distance gaming. That's like a very good way. It's a very good way to sort of like keep people together, people that you miss, people that aren't around anymore, right? To sort of make things feel normal or how they were, But then like let's say you miss like a former romantic partner, like one of your exes or someone who didn't even get to be an ex, right? But made a lasting impact on you. Like that shit's like really hard to navigate. It is. And there's a lot of emotions involved with missing someone, and especially if there were a lot of emotions involved with your relationship, and then when they go away or when that relationship stops, like it can be very difficult to sort of adjust to that, and what do you do? Like, I don't know what to do in that situation. Like, there are people in my life who I miss dearly, but I know that like I could contact them at any point. It's not going to be the same as it was like when I think back on the times that I miss, right? And then you have this whole dilemma where it's like, okay, do I actually miss this person, or am I just like romanticizing the time that we spent together and making it seem way better than what it was? You find that a lot with like romantic situations. I have found that to be the case, at least. You know what I mean? Like when you're in the relationship or in the situationship or whatever the fuck you want to call it, whatever you had going on, like it may have been one way completely, and then sort of like grass is greener, you don't know what you got till it's gone style shit, where it's like it gets over and you start reminiscing, and then all of a sudden like you just forget all the bullshit and you only think of like the good times, and then that's when the like I miss you texts start getting sent out. You know what I mean? And it happens like that too with non-romantic relationships, obviously, like your old roommates or friends that you were like sort of tight with when they were around, and then you guys are separated and you realize that you actually really like them, but then you don't know if you actually really did like them, or if this is you just like picking out only the good stuff and forcing yourself to sort of like miss them, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's I think it might be a little difficult to explain, but I think you guys know what I mean. I find that happening a lot, where there's people who I kind of interacted with like very sporadically, and then they go away or we drift apart, and then somehow we reconnect, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I really miss this person, like they were so cool, they were great. But then when I think back, it's like, oh, we only hung out a couple of times and didn't really do that much. I don't think it was that fun. But for some reason now when I think of them, like I think of them so fondly, But also like on the real, like it is tough when like your best friends dip, or when like, when shit like that happens. It's really hard, and it takes a lot of effort on every party's behalf to keep things up and keep things going. And there is a lot of discipline with like, keeping relationships strong, despite distance, right? So, best friends in college, and then one of you has to move home to the other side of the country or something, and there's a million reasons why people move. It doesn't have to just be the college thing, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I feel like that's a very common one amongst people our age, is like, once you get out of school, people just kind of like disperse. And I don't know. Luckily, we live in like this age of information, this like technology age, where it's like really easy to keep up with people. It's not the same as it was before. You guys aren't hanging out regularly. You guys aren't, living together anymore. You guys aren't just like, goofing around at the bar and getting pizza and watching TV and smoking weed. Like now it's sending memes and recommending, TV shows for each other, maybe doing like watch parties sometimes, talking on the phone sometimes. Like when you miss someone and you're able to communicate with them, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time and patience and a lot of coordination in order to really like make things work, and sometimes it doesn't work and you're stuck with that terrible feeling of longing and that terrible feeling of just missing someone and knowing there's nothing you can do. You know, like when someone dies and you know that you're never going to talk to them again, and you miss them terribly. And I think that's, that's like the worst part, right? With missing someone, is growing without them and feeling their absence in everything that you do. You know what I mean? I find myself doing that with, people I've fallen out with, and also people who've died. They're one and the same in that regard, where I do stuff now and I think, man, like I really wish I could share this with that person or these people. Like, I wonder what they would have to say, but I know that I'm never going to know for whatever reason, right? They're obviously, like, we go through things in our lives and then we'll get reminded of someone who we miss or who isn't around. And that's tough as shit too, and there's healthy ways to deal with that, and there's unhealthy ways, and we're all guilty of doing each one. It really depends on who you are and what you're feeling in that moment. But, like, I don't know, it's tough getting close to people and then having them, drift away for whatever reason. And I don't think that there's really a right or wrong way to deal with missing someone. Like, obviously there are a lot of wrong ways to deal with it. But I think a lot of it, like I said, is very subjective. And I hope that if you're missing someone, you're able to deal with it in a healthy way. But if you're dealing with it in an unhealthy way, like, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it. We've all been there. But that's the episode. And thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. If you like The Hatening, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere. You can find The Hatening on all social media platforms, and from there you can find the individual profiles for myself and super producer Andrew. You can tell your friends about the show as well. People have been doing that. It's been pretty great. But yeah, take care of yourself and the people around you, and don't forget to tell your friends you love them.